You're gonna count me in? Oh, fuck, I ruined it. I thought you were gonna count me in.
Hi. Hi, and welcome back to I Bloody Love Orange. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jess, and this is our true crime podcast. I really thought you were gonna count me in. Like every other time
Nope,
you've counted me
no.
in.
And I'm going to keep that section in just so that people know how little we put into the opening of that section.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Just so
it's true.
people know
Do
that
usually
like
count
that's
us
what
in.
happens. But
Usually
today
we're
you
very
just gave me
professional.
a are you ready? Bang. It's done.
Yeah, just let's get right into it. It's fun. This is the birthday podcast. Happy birthday, Bish.
Happy birthday. We're both
It's
old.
it's cool. We are old. It's birthday on the same day, as we said before.
Yeah.
Um, I am 3 years younger than Jess.
Shut up. Shut up, you old hag.
Okay, no, I'm 2 years older than Jess.
Yeah.
I'm 28 this year. Jess is 26 this year.
Yeah. It's
It's
mental.
kind of it is weird.
I never thought I'd make it
We
past
are.
22.
Why? What do you think was gonna
I didn't
like
know that
kill
was
you
going to
off?
happen.
I mean, last podcast we did talk about how we're obsessed with McDonald's, so maybe that was gonna kill us before now.
Yeah. And especially like if McDonald's had stayed open during like quarantine, like during the lockdown, and we could constantly order it, I would 100% be dead because I have
I was
zero self control.
I I finally went because we started the podcast. I finally went on Facebook just to tell people like, oh, I started a quarantine podcast, and if anyone wants to listen in, it's all about true crime and stuff. So I finally logged on, and all of the posts on Facebook are like, "Did you gain 100 pounds in quarantine? Are you over drinking in quarantine?" I was like, "Oh wow, it's
Yes and
intense."
no. I
Yeah,
did have
no, I
literally a
haven't
whole
been
bottle of wine
drinking.
the other day.
Oh well, yeah, I'm sure that doesn't count.
Nah, that's not over drinking, just one bottle of wine for one day for one person. I thought that was normal. Isn't that
Yeah, I
regular?
think so.
Doesn't everyone do
I
that?
haven't had drinking so long. I'm such a boring person.
No.
I mean, I'm sure people must be like, drinking to get through this because it's so
I gotta
boring
get
being at
through this.
home.
Yeah, I am so unbelievably bored at home. So,
Yeah, I think everyone is. Today's podcast, because it's our birthday and it's a special one. This is the mini-sode. This isn't even a podcast today, I guess. This is the mini-sode, and this episode is going to be all about Disney, which I'm very excited to talk about.
because we always used to go to Disney, and we went to Disneyland together once on our birthday. Um,
Yeah,
the first birthday we both had in Japan, I said that like one of us had a birthday that was not in Japan, like whilst we were both there. That's not true. This is actually my first birthday at home since I was 21, which is insane.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah. It freaked me out. I thought about it the other day and I was like, God, this is the first birthday I've had like in my own country with my family like since my 21st birthday. And it just makes me
Wow,
feel like,
that is
whoa, it's
weird.
been a long time. God, I'm so old. And now we're in
Yeah, it has been
lockdown
a
and I
long
can't
time.
do anything anyway.
Yeah, that's my deal because I'm living. Obviously, all my family live in the UK. Jess lives in the UK. Most of my friends either live abroad, and all my Japanese friends like are working because although we have had some lockdown things, a lot of it's kind of like one day on, one day off, or essential workers are working, and all of my friends here are working still. So, bar the other like teachers that are off. So it's just little old me, and I think on my birthday day, I'm probably going to stay home, watch Disney films, and do as little as possible.
To be honest, that's all I want to do. Like, I just want to be in bed.
Yeah, definitely. Now that I'm getting older, I do just want to stay home. I mean, this quarantine's been great for me because it's me just doing exactly what I want to do, which is be at home,
Yeah. But anyway,
talk to nobody.
to go back into Disney, we once went to Disneyland on our birthday. which was so cute because we only did it once on our birthday, like on the actual day, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then the day before I left Japan, we went and they gave me a birthday badge for some reason. So I had a fake birthday in August. Remember that? And everyone was
Can
saying
I
happy birthday to me.
can I tell a bit of a story to do with that?
Yeah, go on.
So this is not crime related or anything, but it's a good introduction, I guess. So we went because Jess knew that she was
Sorry, Josh,
leaving
I need
Japan.
to
She's going
interrupt
back to the
you
UK.
because I think people can hear a slight siren, and that's a Japanese siren in the background, like where Josh lives. Just in case
Oh,
you're wondering
so
what that noise is, it's a siren in the back. Sorry,
oh
Josh.
wow, I'm so sorry. That okay, if you can hear that siren, that's because as of this week, we are using our brand new mics that were for our birthday. We
Yeah.
have new mics for the podcast, so hopefully the quality's gone up. And if you can hear the siren, then that's great. That means the mic is working.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry if that was distracting.
No, sorry. I just
um,
wanted to say, like, just in case anyone could hear it, that's what it is. Okay, go. Go with your story. Go on. Go on. Go
yeah,
on.
I'm
Tell
not.
us. Tell us. Tell us.
Nothing's happening. So we last year Jess decided she was going to go back to the UK. She's going to start her new life, and we decided that before she goes, we were going to do like this huge Disney like blowout, big summer blowout, and we're going to go to the park and do a ton of stuff. And when we were there, we were buying like I think we were in a shop buying stuff that kind of meant stuff to us. I don't know how much
Yeah.
detail I'll go into because it was kind of personal, but because I am the weakest person in the entire world, upon buying such like nice things, I started crying just in front of the woman before we buy the stuff.
No,
Just
that's
start
not even
bawling.
like you can't even say that's not even fair to you because I was the one that burst into tears before we even got into the park. We were just
Oh, that's good.
walking. Oh, now I can hear the bell. Now I can hear the Japanese bell.
I'm so sorry. It's outside. I'm so sorry.
That's funny. Um, yeah, when we were walking towards the gates of the park, I was in floods of tears. I couldn't even breathe. So we were both
Good.
a wreck because it was my very last day
Yeah,
in Japan after like
it was a
four and a
mess.
half years or something.
Yeah, and I remember when we're buying the stuff. I don't know if I've remembered this correctly. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're buying the stuff. I burst into tears and I tell the lady in like really terrible Japanese. I'm like, "Oh, my friend, she's going back to the UK, and I'm really sad about it. So we're gonna get something like momentum for us to have from Disney before she goes."
Yeah.
And is that the time that they gave you the sticker?
Yeah, because the woman started crying as well. So the
So
three
we're
of
all
us,
in the shop crying.
this Japanese Disneyland cast member was crying as well. And the two of us were hysterically crying. Like, it's not even just like a little tear, like, in the movies, quite pretty, like, oh, I'm so cute. And we were snot everywhere, tears streaming, like snorting to get breath, crying. That's what was happening. I don't know how we got through that day. Like, I think in the
And
end,
then
it was so hot that took over.
yeah. But I just think the funniest thing is that in response to us having a bit of like a meltdown and being like, "Oh, our friend's leaving," her response was, "Oh my god, take a birthday sticker."
Yeah.
So then for the rest of the day, when you get on rides, everyone's like, "Oh, happy birthday!" And Jess was just like, "Oh, thank you."
My birthday was on, what was it, like the 22nd or the 23rd of August or something like that, like last year. I still have
That
that.
was
I
so
still have
funny.
that sticker. I can literally see it in my room now. And it's
That was
like,
so
it says
funny.
my name and it says something in Japanese. I don't think it's anything to do with a birthday. So I think she did write something like special day or something like that. But everyone was just like, a birthday sticker. Like, they don't look at your name, the other cast members. They just see the sticker in passing and they're like, happy birthday. Like, that's what they do.
Oh, that was so funny. Yeah, that was a really funny day. I think that kind of helped because it took it from a really, took it from a really dark topic to just so ridiculously stupid.
Yeah, so we were like,
Oh, that's
the
funny.
two of us thought that was hilarious. So we like started like going from crying to just laughing about what had happened. And then we
Yeah,
went
that
straight
was
from
funny.
there to the Country Bear Jamboree.
Oh,
And we
dear.
were just like
I guess this
listening
isn't
to
fun
these
to listen to.
Japanese. It is. Don't even lie. Everyone loves this.
Oh,
We were just listening to these
so
bears
dumb.
singing Japanese, these country songs. It was hilarious.
Both like sitting sniffling. I also, yeah, it was emotional, but yeah, that was one of the times we went to Disney. We are huge Disney lovers. I think it should be. I think we should somewhat bring up the fact that the reason we're doing this whole Disney episode, one, because we love Disney, two, because we love crime, but three, didn't you? I'm sure you talked about this in the last episode, or maybe an episode before, or we just talked about it. But didn't you go searching for the blood stain in a Disney park?
I did. So, this is my crime state. Sorry, I've got a cough. I've got like a cold. So I keep coughing, but I want to keep talking. And it's because I talk too much that I cough all the time. Also, if you heard some slight meowing and a door open, it's because my cat, like, she sleeps on my bed all day, every day. And, like, apparently
It's fine.
now was the time she was going to come upstairs and make the noise.
It's okay. No one's listening but us.
Okay, good. So, yeah, I have been obsessed with incidents that happened at Disneyland or Disney parks for absolutely years. So the first time I went to Disney World was in like 2007. And at this time, like, I didn't really know about it, but I was starting to get into crime. By the time I went back in 2011, that was when I was like obsessed. I started to think when I was there, like, God, so much stuff must have happened here. Like, I need to know about it. So I was looking then, from then on, I kept looking at like incidents that had happened, which is a really weird thing to do. It is so weird. And I was like fascinated by it. And I used to like tell people, and I was like, did you know this happened to Disneyland? Do you know this happened in like Epcot? Do you know this happened like here? And everyone was like, Jess, shut up. Like, that is so weird. We don't want to think about people dying at Disney. And I was like, but it's weird and like fascinating. So anyway, I read about this one particular case, which I will tell you about later. And this happened in Epcot, and it happened near the Journey to Imagination Pavilion, which is a mega, popular park. And
Yeah.
I went and searched, like when I was there, I went back in 2015, and when I was there, I knew about almost everything that happened at this point. I had researched it extensively, like all the incidents. And I went to find the blood stain on the floor, which is
I mean,
such
that
a
is
weird
so
thing to
us.
do. Yeah, but it was so fascinating to me to be in the spot where this incident had happened. And I was like, I've got to go find it. I don't think I found the actual thing, but I knew where like this event took place, and I went there, which I was really excited about. But I couldn't find the actual stain, but I found a stain on the floor and took a photo of it anyway and just hoped that it was the
Oh,
thing.
nice. Taking pictures
But
of
it was probably just
stains.
someone throwing
I
up.
mean,
Like,
I love it because most people, before they go to a Disney park, before they make this like huge expenditure, because the tickets are super expensive, most people plan out like what ride they're going to go on, what Disney character they want to see, what restaurant, and we go into the park and we're like, oh, did you know that like someone's blood is on the floor over here? We should go and see it.
it's insane. Like, it's actually insane. And I did
Terrible.
like on when I knew I was moving to Japan, and I knew there was a park there, obviously, in Tokyo. And I looked up the incidents that happened at Tokyo, and there's literally next to none. It's all like natural disasters, and I was like, oh, there's nothing juicy for me to like go and find. It was like, oh,
Yeah,
we
makes
had the
sense.
earthquake, and then the car parks flooded, so we closed. I was like, oh, great, okay, you
Yeah,
know.
kind of calm. I mean, still terrible, but not so much a crime.
Yeah, I did read about one guy in Tokyo who tried to get out of he was on Big Thunder Mountain in Tokyo, and his like secure lock thing didn't like click down, and the ride started to move, and he panicked, and instead of pulling it down where it's going to click down, when you like pull it down and it clicks, and like I would 100% just pull that down further to make sure it clicked in. Well, instead of that, when the ride started to move, he tried to get out because he was scared because his thing didn't lock, and he got his like leg stuck between the train and the platform, and he got like dragged with the ride a bit. But they immediately stopped the ride. Someone like a cast member saw him and was like, bang, emergency stop, and he literally only had a sprained
Wow,
ankle. Whereas if that had
that's
happened, I
amazing.
swear to God, if that had happened in America, they would have sent them around the ride anyway. Like, he'll figure it out. Boom. Off you go. Enjoy the ride, sir. It's so funny.
Just slam. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. Good. I'm glad we've had a little. I really, because I've
Oh,
accidentally given part of your story away. I'm going to get on with mine.
okay, fine.
I'm going to start this week, if you don't mind. I actually didn't realize that your story was to do with that, so I'm going to make a swift pivot, and I'm going to get into mine, which which is a little obscure for Disney, but I did. I don't know how you found it, but I really, 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 really struggled to find a case with a lot of names, a lot of information, and a lot of like
100%.
details.
Disney just
It was
covers
kind of
everything up.
difficult. Ah, they shut that down. So the case that I have for you today is that of Rebecca Corriam. She was on the Disney cruise.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna get into it, if you don't mind. Let's
Go,
start.
go. I love this case. Go.
Rebecca Corriam was born March 11, 1987, Chester, England. She lived with her parents, her sister, and two foster brothers. She worked at Chester Zoo when she was younger, which has a memorial bench dedicated to her grandparents. Because I
Oh,
think
nice.
a lot of her family worked at Chester, so she
Mm.
went to work at Chester Zoo. She was in the Army Cadets as a team, and she did a lot of like extracurricular activities.
Mm.
She attends Plymouth University and studies sports science. She also spent 4 months in the States at a sports camp in Maine, which is
Lovely.
interesting. So she's like a really nice all round girl. She likes sports. She's
Yeah.
doing all these extracurricular stuff. You know, she's a good kid. June 2010, she takes a trip to London to interview for the Disney cruise positions. She's really bubbly. She's super friendly. And for that reason, she is hired and she flies to Florida for training at the Disney World parks.
Yep.
She spends 4 months on her first Disney cruise, which is registered to the Bahamas, and then she flies back to the UK for 2 months off.
Go.
She goes back to work and she's placed on the Disney Wonder, which is based out of the port of Los Angeles, and she works through all the ports of call on the Mexican Riviera. Riviera.
Nice.
She only returned home once during that time, and when she returned home, her grandfather passed away.
Oh.
Um, that 2 week stint that she spends in the UK is the last time her family will ever see her. She
God.
returns to the Wonder and resumes her duties as a youth worker. And she keeps good contact with her family. She uses Skype and Facebook. And apparently she's quite close to her family. So she talks to her mom quite regularly. The last thing she says to her mom is that she'll call her March 21st, 2011, and that like she'll call her tomorrow,
Mm.
is what she basically says. Her mother starts to feel concerned 12 hours. Sorry, I wrote this a little strange. Her mother starts to feel concerned as 12 hours pass and she doesn't get any response from Rebecca. So 12 hours, I feel, is kind of a short time. But obviously, it was enough to make her mother concerned that, okay, this amount of time has passed and we're obviously, they consecutively talk. So
Yeah,
as soon as they
exactly.
didn't, her mum was like, okay, what's happening?
Yeah.
Um, 9 a.m. that morning off the coast of Mexico and bound for Puerto Vallarta and Cabo San Lucas, Rebecca doesn't show up for her shift. She's not in her room and she can't be found in the ship's colleague areas, like staff working areas.
Mm.
She also doesn't respond to pages that are sent to her from colleagues and bosses and
Mm.
stuff, so no one can find her. One cast member sort of jumps up and claims that they saw someone jump over the side of the boat at 3 a.m. and
Mm.
that they think that was Rebecca, that she jumped 3 a.m.
Okay. What?
However, on reviewing CCTV, footage of Rebecca shows her at 5:45 a.m. alive, albeit somewhat distressed.
Okay.
Um, this is kind of like this is my first problem with this case is that nobody else is uncounted for on the ship. Everyone is perfectly counted for bar Rebecca, which proves that the cast member claiming to see someone jump was
Hmm.
either lying
Yeah.
or saw something similar but they didn't see someone jump.
Yeah, because otherwise it would have been a guest or something like that. Like,
Right, another person would have been missing. Like if she's found after the time, then that means someone prior to her being on the phone jumped, and that would mean two people are missing, but
yeah,
there's
not
not.
just one. Yeah.
So I don't know, it's a bit strange, I thought.
Yeah, that is really
Anyway,
strange.
in the CCTV CCTV footage. Rebecca is talking on the ship's internal phones from the crew area of the ship.
Mm.
She does appear in distress. You can, like, I'm going to put this video on our Twitter. So if you go to our Twitter, IBLO Crime, IBLO Crime, I'll put this video up on Twitter later.
Okay.
You can see her, like, moving her hands through her hair and hands over her face and stuff like that. And she does look visibly distressed. So much so that a cast member approaches her, asks if she's okay, and you can see her reaction of,
Mm.
yeah, fine, which is really strange.
Was it like an
Um,
aggressive, yeah, fine?
I don't know.
Or
She
is it just
just,
like, yeah,
I
I'm
mean, she's in
fine?
distress.
Yeah, like
She's
dismissive?
in distress.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess. She hangs up the phone. She walks away from the phone. She's like pushing her hair back, and she's showing signs that made her parents say that she must have been stressed. They said that these are typical signs of stress when you look at their daughter. Like, this is what she did,
Okay.
fidgeting and stuff when she was stressed. Um, she's not seen after this CCTV footage. It's the last
Mm.
thing that is seen. I've got to tell you something quite strange. I can't 100% confirm this, but I did see two things that showed the map of the boat
Yeah.
where she was. The direction that she walks off is into the lounge area
Mm-hmm.
where her colleague, like the colleague area, and there's not another way out than to go back past that camera to go out. So when she walks into the colleague area, how didn't they catch her coming back out?
Yeah. Weird.
Right, so the only footage Disney gave was that footage. But if she goes into the colleague area, there's no way for her to kind of get out of that area without passing the same camera. So I thought that was strange.
Was the
Um,
camera like showing the whole hallway? Like there was no way you could hide from the camera.
yeah, because it's like the door. You can kind of see
Oh,
her on the
okay.
phone. You can see the light from the door. So she would have had to have gone up through that light. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I did read about it on two different sources. So there you
Mm.
go. The crew searched the entire ship. US Coast Guards backtrack the path of the ship and search for Rebecca, and also the Mexican Navy help in the search, but they don't find anything. The ship itself, the Wonder, ignored its standard operating procedures by not turning back and looking for her, and instead continued sailing forwards, which is against their own sort of operating procedure, which I thought was strange.
Yeah.
Um, because the ship was registered to the Bahamas at the time, Detective Paul Roll from the island flies out to the ship and he investigates. When the parents speak to him, he says and reports that he only speaks to 6 cast members on board the ship and doesn't speak to any passengers.
Christ.
The investigation took place 3 days after Rebecca is reported missing. So not only is it kind of late, but of
Yeah.
the almost 1,000 cast members on board, he speaks to 6, which I think is really
And they had been
weird.
continuously sailing since the disappearance.
Right, exactly. Rebecca's parents fly to visit the detective. He tells them that he only spent a day on board the ship before flying back home. The parents claim that Disney brought the parents to the ship in like a blacked out car and only let them board the ship from the side entrance because passengers were disembarking.
Mm-hmm.
It's been commented on, and I think the parents have commented on news outlets that I saw that they felt like it was kind of, I forgot the word, but Disney had kind of like processed the entire situation for them and
Yeah.
that there wasn't much freedom away from what Disney had what track Disney set them on. The next day, the ship leaves the port and continues its route and sets sail on its next cruise, despite there being an ongoing investigation to
Mm-hmm.
do with the ship, which I
Yeah.
think is insane. The ship's captain explains to the parents that he believed a rogue wave washed Rebecca off of the ship, and he shares his condolences with the family. The parents then meet with
A
Disney
rogue wave.
executives. Yeah, this rogue wave takes her off board. Um, the parents then meet with Disney executives and the woman that Rebecca was speaking to on the phone that morning. Um, I think on the anniversary of her disappearance, a random tip in the form of an email is sent to her father claiming that someone had seen Rebecca, and 80% like she thought 80%. I don't know what word I'm looking for. With 80%
80% like,
certainty
right, okay.
that she had seen Rebecca with a man in the streets of Venice. This was shortly before the anniversary of the incident, which kind of jogged her memory, the centre said.
Okay.
And Rebecca's uncle believes the tip to be legitimate, but without a passport, it was really unclear as to how Rebecca would have reached Venice, and why wouldn't she have spoke to her family since going there. It should be said that human trafficking is common in the Bahamas cruise area, and it is possible she was taken in these circumstances, but of course that's speculation, and I don't know. Um, while on the ship, the family are shown a pair of sandals believed to be Rebecca's.
Yeah.
On deck 5, where she apparently was washed overboard, there was a pair of sandals. The official story from Disney is that these belonged to Rebecca and that they were proof that she was in the area at the time. However, private investigators that the parents hired, looked closely at the sandals given to the family, and it was clear that the sandals were A, way too big for Rebecca,
Mm.
B, they had a name and cabin number written on them that
What?
was not Rebecca's, right? And lastly, when interviewed, nobody on board could say that they ever saw Rebecca wearing these sandals, and they also commented that like flowery Hawaiian patterns were not her style, that she just wouldn't have bought that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
the name is kind of a giveaway.
Yeah. Wow.
A a famous journalist, John Ronson, boarded the Wonder Ship in 2011. I think he writes for The Guardian. Um, with permission from Rebecca's parents, he undertakes his own personal investigation into the case.
Yeah.
He speaks to cast members who reveal that they believe Disney knew more than they were letting on. All of the people he spoke to asked that they were not to be named in anything he ever wrote, but a bartender aboard the ship told him that cast members had been trained to say it didn't happen when asked about her case.
Yeah.
Cast members also commented that everything on board the ship is taped and all calls are recorded, which led them to suggest that Disney must know what really happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, someone's got to
Right,
know what really happened.
right. It was questioned. This journalist questioned whether she had fallen overboard while jogging that morning. Jogging was a typical daily exercise of Rebecca's,
Mm.
and there is a jogging path aboard the ship where numerous other passengers will, go jogging in the morning. However, there are numerous cameras that would have spotted her on this kind of trail, and these cameras are disguised so that dodging the camera is really difficult.
Yeah.
Um, the deck that Rebecca supposedly fell from is deck 5. It has a pool, which is where the sandals were found. The deck is surrounded by 6-foot walls, which essentially means that a wave would have to reach 100 feet in order to climb the wall and successfully take Rebecca off into the sea.
That's insane. What an insane theory.
The Coast Guard comments that a wave of that size was not reported on the day that Rebecca went missing, and it would be picked up by Coast Guard security. Private investigators also confirmed that sea records show that the sea was calm that day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's believed that Rebecca was on the phone with her supposed girlfriend, Medley. I think her name is Medley,
Okay.
who also worked on board at the time.
Yeah.
Um, Rebecca's parents were also told that there may have been like a love triangle between Rebecca, Medley, and Medley's boyfriend, or Medley's like boy. I don't know. I don't know if they were a couple, but they were definitely involved in some way.
Right. Okay.
There were a pair of shorts found in Rebecca's room with a rip at the crotch, which investigators believe could be signs of sexual assault or at least some sort of struggle.
Yeah.
There's also activity on her bank account after the incident, which would suggest foul play.
Mm.
Medley eventually gave more details in 2011 about what had happened that night, and she told investigators that the three had engaged in a threesome, her, Rebecca, and boyfriend,
Mm.
but that Rebecca was distraught over their passionate relationship prior to this threesome. So I don't know if Rebecca was apparently upset about what was happening with the boy. I'm not sure, but apparently they're having a threesome. Maybe it went wrong, and this is why she goes downstairs.
Right. Okay.
I also, when you look at the video, people comment that the clothes that she's wearing look far too big for her, and that it's possible that she's wearing someone else's clothes, like maybe
Okay.
the boys' clothes. I
Why
don't
would
know.
she do
That's
that
all
though?
speculation. Maybe if they were having a threesome and she just grabs his clothes and goes, you know.
Why would she grab his clothes?
I don't know. It's just what was on the video. I'm not sure if there's any
Yeah.
truth to it. Just kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is strange. Um, Tickets are found in Rebecca's room for her and her sister to go to Disneyland Paris. This, accompanied with the messages she shared with her family, would suggest that she was not contemplating suicide,
Yeah.
although this can't be 100% ruled out.
No.
Um, it should be mentioned that 170 passengers, but I also read 315 passengers and crew have been missing since 2000 from cruise ships. And advocates for this group of people that are missing say that the cases are often not seriously investigated enough.
Yeah.
The case of Rebecca Coram has been spoken on by a lot of like British government officials who say that the investigation is not sufficient and that there are tons of holes, tons of queries, and that more should be done. But sadly, the case is still open but cold.
Mm.
That is the horrible, horrible story and sad, sad, sad death of Rebecca Coriam.
Okay. Well, I think that the whole "a wave came and took her away" is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I mean, I
How
just feel like if that was
stupid
the
is that?
case,
Like,
you would see the wave.
how can you seriously, as an official, say that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it is ridiculous. Like,
That is a strange.
and that was Disney official said that.
Yeah, the Disney captain and their the Disney official, I don't know, situation brief on this is that she was washed overboard by a rogue wave.
Stupid. I mean, if there was a rogue wave, I think more than just one girl going missing, like, not just that, but like, I think a lot of people would have felt the ship move. I think they would have known that, you know, there was a massive wave that just took someone away. There
I
would have
mean,
been
bear in
so much
mind,
evidence of that.
people that go surfing, there are like, I mean, I don't know at the time of when this situation happened, but there are apps now that tell you about waves, the strength
Yeah.
of waves, the wind of waves. So at that time, the Coast Guard and Sea Records would have recorded a wave 100 feet to get over that wall and to wash her away. They
Yeah.
definitely would have found something.
That's
And then
stupid.
I think the sandals is just the most insulting thing to
Oh
give
god.
these
I
sandals over and suggest
reckon,
they're hers.
like, I know we're not supposed to like really go in, but that to me, and I'm not saying Disney did it, but planted.
I mean, it does seem really strange.
Planted. But also I have a question about the trafficked theory. Um
Yeah.
was the ship docked when she went missing?
No,
Or was
the
it
ship
sailing?
was, yeah, it was still sailing when she went missing. I
How
guess the
could she have
problem
been
with things like,
trafficked off a sailing ship if
right,
everyone else was accounted for?
well, bear in mind, she's not seen coming out of that room, right?
Yeah,
So,
she's still
and
in
there
there.
are there are numerous like cases when I was reading about this of people on cruises that end up trafficked off of the cruise because it goes to so many different ports and it's so hard to place where you were.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're suggesting with, I mean, Disney, they, if you ever go to a Disney park, cameras, security. If something happens in a Disney park, security will be on you so fast. You know,
yeah,
and it's known as being Disney parks and places and cruises are known as being one of the safest places on earth, especially as they're so child orientated because of their security. So
yeah.
I feel like they should have seen something. If she goes into that colleague area and someone in there sort of takes her and
Mm,
either brings her out looking different to how she went in, brings her out in some other way, and gets her off the ship. You know, no one came for 3 days. It wasn't until they were docked that investigators came. So
Yeah.
it's not to say we don't know where she went. Nobody's ever found. We don't know if she went overboard. No CCTV's ever shown that she went overboard. So while they, investigators don't hit the ship until the ship hits
Right.
land.
Right. Yeah. So
So,
it's
you have to have a lot of faith that what they're saying is in fact the case. And her going missing on the ship, it's a huge ship, and although they might be searching for her, you know, we don't know how
yeah.
extensively they did search.
Doesn't sound like very.
Creepy, right? I mean, her being spotted in Venice sounded, I don't know, a little strange to me.
I mean,
I just
that
feel like that's
sounds to
probably
me
something else.
very, very like. I feel really sorry for the dad. Like, I don't think that should have ever been sent to the dad because the dad's like holding on to hope now.
Right.
Because that seems
Yeah.
very unlikely. Not impossible, just very unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to discourage anyone from giving in a tip like that because you never know, it could help. But on
Also,
the flip side, looking at it now,
threesome on a Disney cruise ship. Like, hello.
between cast members,
Amazing. I mean,
yeah,
obviously
get
not
it.
amazing because obviously there was something going on there, but between three consenting parties, amazing. I live for it.
I
Go on.
mean, the video of her at the phone, like when you look at the guy that Medley was, like, I don't know what to say, kind of
Seeing?
not in a relationship with, but seeing, I
Ooh,
guess, or having some kind of, mutual something with that guy. If she would put on his clothes, that is what she would have looked like. Like, the video does show a situation where a girl could be wearing oversized men's clothes. It doesn't look like it perfectly fit her, but again, just total speculation.
yeah, that to me just sounds really weird because I feel like even in a rushed situation, if you're trying to get out, you would immediately look for your own clothes. Like,
Yeah,
there's no part of me that would instinctively just grab anything that I found. I would
but would
instinctively
you,
look for my own clothes.
even if your own clothes had a tear in the crotch?
Yeah, I would just try and get out and like run back to my own like
Right.
cabin, you know?
But if you are panicked and you're running out of somewhere, would you honestly take the time? If there's three Disney cast member T-shirts all blue and three Disney cast shorts that are all brown, would you be like, oh, I've been
Ah,
in mine, or would you
okay.
just be like, pick up the first ones you see, run out the
Yeah.
room, and go?
I didn't
Do
know
you know
they
what
were
I
all the
mean?
same kind of clothes. I didn't know it was like a uniform. I thought they were like after hours in their own clothes. Because in that case, then yeah, I would just pick up what I thought was mine and it might not be. But like, if it was if we were all wearing individual clothes, there was no way that I would choose
Yeah.
someone else's clothes. I'd just be like, where's mine? There's
Yeah,
mine.
of
Where's
course.
mine? I'm out.
If it's me and two other people, I wouldn't pick up the dress, like, in comparison to my own. But if they're
Yeah,
wearing the
yeah. But if
same
it was
kind of
all the
uniform,
same,
who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I wouldn't. You wouldn't have time to like try and decipher if you were trying to get out.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that. Well, I didn't think I'd researched that much about it, but that actually took a long time. So
Yeah, that
I'm
was a
kind of
really good.
impressed.
Mine's gonna take like 5 minutes now.
That was a good story. Well, we'll take a very, very short break. I'm going to have a quick drink. Jess, you have a drink. Please,
Yeah.
everyone, go grab a cup of tea. We'll see you in 5.
Okay.
Hey, cool cats and kittens. So stupid. That is the stupidest. Basically, I didn't know what to say to get us back into this, but I wanted to do a nice little intro. And as Tiger King has gone wild, hopefully everyone will understand what I'm going on about. We should
Would
talk about
you
that in the future at some point.
agree? Would you agree with this statement? I heard someone say that Tiger King was now the most successful documentary of all time. Would you agree? I would personally put forward Blackfish.
I was thinking of Blackfish. I think Blackfish is really powerful, and I think it had a really big effect on SeaWorld, which kind of links in with today's parks kind of stuff. But I think you have to. No one expected the twists in Tiger King. It's the most ridiculous. I mean, even the producers had to switch what they were going for because it's the most ridiculous story ever. And I think you have to give it. You have to give it some. I don't know. Some credit because of the virus and because of Corona. It's been watched
Yeah.
so much that it just
Yeah.
everyone knew
It's
about it. So I
it's
kind of think that
circumstantial
helped.
in a way. It's very circumstantial. Like if we weren't all in lockdown across the majority of the world, would we all have watched it so much? Would it have become as big as it has? It's very circumstantial. I think calling it, as much as I absolutely loved it and thought it was equal parts hilarious as it was insane, I just feel like it wouldn't have been as successful as it was had it not been in this circumstance. And I would definitely say that Blackfish is the superior, like, it's the superior documentary. But
Yeah, I know what you mean.
and also
I mean,
like,
I'm thinking of other documentaries.
yeah, like other mega ones, the Ted Bundy one
Like
was like
Making a
crazy.
Murderer.
Oh god, making a murderer, I would also say, was probably a bigger deal at the time, considering we were all still working. It was like it was a normal life situation, and yet every
Yeah,
single
it was
person I
huge.
knew had seen it. You know,
I'm at this weird point now where I have watched so many documentaries, it's hard for me to even remember which ones I've watched. But I mean,
that's the thing.
I was going to say one, but it has like political connotations. And do you want me to
What
say it?
political connotations? Yeah.
It has, Bowling for Columbine, about the Columbine
Oh,
murders.
that's a good one. That's a real good one.
I'm not saying that I stand on either part of that situation. I don't want to get political with anyone, but I think that was interesting. But then he's also very, like, what's it called? He kind
Eccentric.
of sticks out too. Yeah, I mean, not so much eccentric, but I don't know what the word is. But yeah, he had, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Michael Moore
In
is
my
also
head, I
really
was trying
kind
to
of
call him Jamie Moore, but I knew I was
polarizing.
wrong, and I was like, "Who the hell is Jamie Moore?" I was like, "Why am I like?
Okay,
Why do I know
anyway.
that?"
Sorry, I totally went off on a random thing. That's all come just from the fact that I didn't have to introduce us. Anyway, so I think, Jess, you have some. I'm kind of excited to hear yours because I do know that you have a main case you're going to tell me about, and then you have some extras. So I'm waiting to hear. Okay,
Yeah,
you
well,
can go.
mine isn't like we said at the beginning. It was really hard to find like a lengthy, detailed account of things that happened at Disneyland because they just swipe that clean, don't they? They're just like, nope, this will not get out to the public. So it's really hard to find like details. So mine was quite short, so I thought like, oh right, okay, I'm gonna need to bring in some other things that I read and still liked, which is a weird thing to say. I didn't like the things that happened. One of them I did find very funny. In a
Okay.
terrible, grim way, I found it very funny. But let's go. So let me say my main case. My main case. Maybe people have heard about this one. It's quite a well-known one. And it's the case of the Epcot hostage situation. So if you've been to Epcot and you didn't know about this, but there was a hostage situation in Epcot once. And all the information that I've got is not a lot, but I've pulled it from different news articles that happened at the time.
Okay.
One was even like a legitimate newspaper, like it was a photo of a newspaper, or like where they've scanned it in and they've put their like archives online, which I thought was really
Okay.
cool. And a lot of this is like quotes from the sheriff who attended the incident. So there's a lot of quoting, I think, unless I took most of the quotes out and just took the information. So here we go. Ready? On Saturday, the 14th of September, 1992, a man with a sawed-off shotgun fired at Disney World employees and briefly held two of them hostage before killing himself at the Epcot Center after the theme park closed. The gunman was identified as Alan Ferris. He was 37 years old at the time, and he was from Rochester in New York. So it's quite, out of all the Disney crimes that happen, I would say this is one of the most high-profile ones. This is the one that I went and looked for the area.
Oh, okay.
I was really interested. I was like, right, okay, I've got to go find when this happened. Okay, so here it goes. The gunman was distraught after a broken romance and demanded to see his former girlfriend who worked at the park. Ferris demanded to see an unidentified park employee with whom he had had an 8-year romantic relationship. So his girlfriend worked at the park. Her name has never ever been released. It was nowhere,
Okay.
which was, fine, protecting her or whatever. And they were together for 8 years. She had broken off their relationship at the end of July that year, and it upset him so much she was forced to get domestic violence injunction against him. This meant that he had to stay a designated distance away from her. It was like a restraining order, but a bit more strict.
Okay.
Because it was a domestic violence injunction. Because it was a definite threat of violence against her.
Okay.
Ferris tried to kill himself by slashing his wrists on July 31st and returned to New York after his release from the hospital. So he was clearly very unstable after this breakup.
Yeah.
He'd already tried to kill himself once, and she had to get a restraining order, basically. He was very, very unstable. Relatives told police that they had not seen Ferris since the Thursday before the incident at Epcot, when he told them he was going to attend a friend's wedding. So he's in New York, and he told his relatives that he has a wedding, and he's going to go and attend his wedding, when actually he went down to Florida.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah. Investigators were not sure how long he'd been in Florida, but said he had carried a receipt from an Orlando Kmart store where he bought the nylon gym-type bag that he carried the gun in. Also, he bought duct tape, which he wrapped around the stock of the gun. So he bought supplies, and that was the only thing they had to indicate how long he had been in Florida. So they had no idea how long he was actually there. But it said that his relatives said the Thursday before the incident, and this only happened on a Saturday.
Okay.
So he must have only been there a few days.
Yeah.
Let me see. He arrived at the park gate. Now, this is weird because all the accounts that I was reading, it always said he arrived at the park gate before, or just after, 2 hours after the park closed, and a guard, apparently believing he was lost, tried to usher him out of the park. So they never made it clear. But what I take from that was that he was actually hiding inside the park at the time, because this incident happened, like I said, at the Journey to Imagination Pavilion, which is inside the park. It's not outside the gates. It's definitely inside the park. So he must have been hiding inside the park for 2 hours after close time, and then decided to come out. And he went to the gate, probably to demand to see her, thinking that's where she must work or something like that. But they weren't very clear about it, and I found it weird that they weren't clear about it. Why wouldn't they say that if it's so obvious? Do you know what I mean? It's so obvious that this happened inside the park. So I feel like Disney are trying to make it believe, or Disney's lawyers at least are trying to make everyone believe that this didn't actually happen in the park. They're trying to confuse their words to make it seem like, oh, but it happened outside the park, but near the pavilion. No, it happened there. And they're trying to confuse.
Okay.
That's how I felt reading these news accounts. I was like, okay, they're trying to confuse the situation about where this happened. A quote from a news article at the time stated, when the security guard started questioning him, he took out a 12-gauge shotgun from a bag and shot 3 times at the guard, end quote. By then, 2 other Epcot employees had arrived, so people heard the gunshots, or they heard the commotion before the gunshots, and they ran over.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a quote from the police chief who attended. He fired 3 times at the first guard, and then fired off a round at the other 2. I don't know how he missed them, so they didn't get hurt.
Wow.
So this sort of indicated to me that this guy is probably, out of his mind. He's just shooting at their direction, trying to scare them because he's going a bit insane. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Let me see. The first guard summoned the sheriff's deputies by radio, and Ferris marched the other 2 at gunpoint to a bathroom near, this is where it says near the Journey to Imagination Pavilion, about 150 yards away. So this is inside the park.
Okay.
and it's in a toilet that's near the pavilion. So you know you have like the big building where the Journey to Imagination used to be. It's not still there, is it?
Yeah.
In Florida, I think they closed Journey to Imagination.
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure.
But there's like the toilet block near there, and this is where this took place. But he only held these hostages for 10 minutes. Then he walked out of the bathroom, clutching the sawed-off shotgun to his chest. The deputies that arrived, like, you know, mega fast within this 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
They set up a perimeter around the building and ordered Ferris to drop the gun. According to multiple people present, Ferris reportedly shouted at the police to shoot him. And this is a quote from what he said, He said, shoot me, you're going to have to kill me.
Ooh.
And that's what he was like repeatedly
Creepy.
shouting.
Okay.
He turned and walked toward the pavilion, then raised the gun to the side of his face and pulled the trigger. Police wrestled the gun away from him, and paramedics who were already on the scene tried to save him. This is a quote, and I'll tell you about this later because we talked about this before. Quote, the man was still alive and able to struggle briefly. He tried to reach for the gun. And that's a quote from the police chief, okay? He had still, this is like, you know, what I want to talk about as well. He had still been alive when he was taken from the scene, but struggling to hold on to life, and died whilst on the way or shortly after arriving at the Orlando Regional Medical Center.
So it seems somewhat unclear as to when, whether it's on the way or when he arrived.
Yeah. So we'll discuss that later. The Disney employees were shaken but unharmed. The gunshots broke several large windows at the communications pavilion in the park. And Disney officials could not be reached for a comment. Disney doesn't often comment, acknowledge, or let information seep out about incidents such as this to maintain the happiest place on earth persona. Which I liked the use of the word persona in that case. Like it's like an entity. It's not a thing, it's a being. Okay, so that's my case. Again, like I said, it was quite short and a very famous case. So this happened, and you can go to the place where this happened. I mean, it happened in the toilets next to the Journey to Imagination pavilion.
Oh, it's so creepy.
You know, maybe I'll find a map later of the park and circle it, and I'll post it on Twitter so you can see exactly where this happened.
Cool. Yeah, sounds nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Ugh.
So I also have some honorable mentions about things that happened, but there was like hardly any information available to write a full story or a longer story about it. So it's just like little snippets, okay? So this is the one that I found quite funny. In 1976, an unidentified woman sued Disney Parks Corporation because she claimed that one of the three little pigs at the It's a Small World attraction grabbed and fondled her. She claimed, I'm not laughing at that. That's terrible. And if that happened, it's awful. I'm laughing at what happened next.
Of course.
She claimed to have gained £50 as a result of the incident and sued Disney for $150,000 in damages for assault and battery and false imprisonment and humiliation. Okay. So she literally gained weight and sued Disney for it.
Bless her.
The plaintiff dropped the charges after Disney lawyers presented her with a photo of the costume, which had only inoperable stub arms, a common feature among the shorter characters. So basically, this woman went to Disneyland, gained weight after, and thought, I'm going to sue Disney for this. But I don't want to, I hate to be the person that doesn't believe when people say they've been like, touched or whatever.
Yeah, of
but
course.
When the Three Little Pigs costume has inoperable arms, then you're lying, and you're lying.
It sounds sketchy.
And
but
also,
I do appreciate someone going to a park and then blaming them for their, subsequent weight gain.
Yeah. I mean, even in 1976, costumed characters were always supported by cast members, uncostumed cast members.
Oh, okay.
So there would have always been people around. There is at no point a place where a costume character is on their own with a person. You know? It's a mega rule because
Yeah,
it's so
usually
child
someone's there.
orientated. Of course you're going to be there. But then to just blame Disney for your gaining of weight and then quickly drop the charges because they showed you an actual photo of who you blamed this on. You know, it's terrible.
I wonder if we can find photos of what the pigs looked like in 1976?
1976.
Oh, 1976. Okay.
1976.
Okay.
Apparently,
That's
the
funny.
shorter
That's good.
arms, the inoperable short arms were eliminated a couple of years later because of safety concerns. But the safety concerns were more about the cast members inside the costumes rather than the public. Due to the fact they just couldn't move their arms. They had stub arms. So how could they defend themselves or something like that? Like, you know, if they fell in the water. There's a lot of water in Disney parks. I mean, there's lots of like man-made lakes and stuff.
But there's
So
also kids that you could fall over because you can't see well out of those
yeah,
costumes.
exactly.
So
Especially in
imagine
the
all the
70s.
things.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So yeah, they did change the costume design, but it did not help this woman in this case because they didn't change it till after she had blamed them for fondling her.
Okay.
Okay, so my next honourable mention, on August 6th, 1970, the Youth International Party held a publicly promoted gathering called the First International Powwow at the park
Okay.
with the intent to liberate Disneyland from the establishment. Yeah. So this group of people who literally called themselves the Yippies, because the park was called, what, not the park, the group was called the Youth International Party. So that was like shortened to YIP. And then they were basically young hippies, so they called themselves Yippies. They basically, what I took from this was that they wanted to go to Disneyland and they thought it was against their sort of like liberate everything, you know, we don't work for the capitalist man or whatever. No offense to hippies, or the Yippies, or the So they basically wanted to go to Disneyland, and they were like, let's have a gathering and do a little silent, peaceful protest so we can actually go on Pirates of the Caribbean like everyone else because we want to. And really, we're just humans with a heart.
It's just an excuse for them to go. Like a silent protest makes it sound even more so that they didn't really care. They just wanted to go.
Yes. So this was in like 1970 as well, so like prime hippie time. Anticipating a large riot, every police department in Orange County provided additional security, and a special court was set up to process mass arrests. So the police, before this even happened, were like, right, this is going to turn into something. We gotta crack down. So every police department was sent in, which I think is just way overkill. Like, what the hell? These are young people, you know, young hippies just trying to have a good time. Okay, so the powwow was largely peaceful, although Disneyland closed early after the Yippies replaced an American flag at Fort Wilderness with their own flag. We got a picture of it.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
tweet. Yeah, so because of that, Disneyland was like, close the park. Get no one can see this flag. I just think, you know, an American flag is a big deal in America, isn't it? Like, it's like mega dishonorable if you take it down.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Yippies really gave a shit.
I don't think they cared about the flag.
You know, fight the power. So anyway, as the police attempted to escort the Yippies out of the park, fights broke out between Yippies and other guests, and at least 18 Yippies were arrested for violations such as trespassing, drug possession, and property damage. The drug possession, it was just weed. Like, it wasn't harmful.
Okay.
None of them were carrying
normal marijuana.
Yeah. Because of this incident, though, Disneyland has a rule that, I say had a rule. I don't think it's still in effect. I think it would violate certain laws if it was still in effect. But Disneyland had a rule that no hippies or hippie types were allowed in the parks. And if cast members at the gate saw a stereotypical hippie type trying to enter the park, they had to call security. And this was because of the yippies.
Oh wow,
So Disney was
that's
very
harsh.
against hippies for a long time
Poor
because of
hippies.
this thing that happened.
Okay.
Anyway, that was another honorable mention of a crime that happened in Disneyland. That was in Disneyland, California, I think. I do think so. Anyway, this is my last honorable mention about a crime that happened
Okay.
in Disneyland. This one's a bit more like serious. It's a bit more dark, okay? On
Oh,
March
okay.
the 7th, 1981, an 18-year-old boy was fatally stabbed with a knife during a fight with a 28-year-old man after the victim supposedly pinched the man's girlfriend in Tomorrowland. His family sued the park for $60 million. The jury found the park to be negligent for not summoning outside medical help and awarded the family $600,000. I chose this one as an honorable mention because it's so rare that a family could win a court case against Disney. Isn't it? We always talk about like how Disney will always settle outside of court so that it doesn't get publicized, and
Right.
so they always remain the good guys. So it was just really
Yeah, it
weird. I was
is.
reading through like things that had happened, and I came across this is probably the only thing I've ever come across with, apart from OSHA, which is like the regulation of parks in Florida. It's the only time that I've ever seen that Disney has actually lost a court case. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, it was really unusual.
Yeah, I
So
mean, part of the contract that they make must be like a hush order that they'll pay out of. They're trying to keep the image of the parks really clean. So I think part of any kind of deal that they come to must be that we don't talk about this and we try and keep the parks as clean as possible.
yeah, exactly. So they always sell outside of court if they think they're not going to win. So they must have thought they were going to win to keep this one in court and then lost, which is kind of like unusual, which is why I wanted to mention it. Although it's dark that this
That is
guy literally
interesting.
got stabbed in Tomorrowland.
It is.
Um, I'm pretty sure this is in California as well.
Okay. I
Um,
was I was looking for honorable mentions. Honorable mentions.
yeah,
I was looking for some honorables, and I couldn't find a lot. But when I was researching my Rebecca Corum's case, I I came across two separate articles of like kids being molested in the parks,
yeah,
which is really scary to me. I there was two that I read. I don't know if it's the same case, I don't know if it's different cases, and I don't even know if they're real because I couldn't find anything else on them other than like two articles that kind of briefly spoke on them. And I think one of them was like a YouTube video where someone briefly spoke about it.
mm.
Sorry, can you hear that
Yeah.
really intense helicopter going overhead? Whoa. Someone's coming for me for talking. I'm sorry, Disney. I love you.
That's Disney. They're after you.
One of the cases was a mom going with her two boys, and some of the rides are just pair rides. So the mom and each child would kind of like alternate who can sit with mom
Mm.
per ride. And I guess the kids would sometimes sit together. And on one occasion, they're in the queue, they befriend someone so that when they get on the ride, the mom and the youngest son sit together, and the slightly older boy, I think he was like 7, sits with another guy who's like, oh, it's fine, I'll sit with him. And as they take off onto the ride, the guy starts like fondling his legs and his crotch.
Oof. God, that is dark.
How? Yeah, that
That
is
is dark.
really, really dark. And I
I read a lot
also
of those as well. I read a lot of like the
a lot
cases
of like
of,
molestation,
but I
right?
also read a lot where it was more to do with guests fondling characters like Minnie and
Oh,
princesses,
oh my god, that's
which is
horrible.
awful. Yeah, there was another case where I was gonna do this case, where a grandfather from Philadelphia fondled Minnie Mouse, um, in a
Wow.
character meet and greet, and he literally was squeezing her bum, and he was like touching her breasts as well,
Oh my
and
god.
he was like laughing as he did it in a creepy way, and apparently the
Ugh.
woman had like she was really sort of damaged by it, and she went to court and he lost. but it was handled like sort of
That's
away from
terrible.
Disney.
That's
Because she
terrible.
personally, sued the guy rather than like through Disney. So
There's also, do you remember when they used to have, was it Tarzan in the parks? And it
no.
used to be like a very young, really hunky lad, and moms were like caught trying to feel him up and like
God,
touch him.
oh,
Yeah, that's kind
dark.
of creepy.
Anyway, going back
Yeah.
to the story a second, the one when the guy
Yeah.
got stabbed. So, um, leading on from that, the reason that Disney was actually found negligent in this case is that there's a rule in the park where cast members are forbidden to call 911 until like house doctors from Disneyland and the security actually arrive at the scene first. And it's not until then and they've surveyed the situation they're allowed to call 911. So
Oh wow, that's
that's
creepy.
why they were found negligent. And that still happens. So cast members
That's
are
so
not
creepy.
really supposed to call 911 until like they desperately need to. They really try and handle it in the park themselves first because they do not want this to go outside the park. And then leading on from that, the whole rule that I found this like quote that it was basically that Disney didn't want ambulances rushing into the park and disturbing other guests, ruining the happiest place on earth image. Um, so basically, someone can die over there as long as they don't ruin the image for everyone else, which is the
Oh
basic
my god,
thing.
that's so
And
dark.
then leading on from that, there's also a rule that most people haven't heard of, and it's that no one dies at Disneyland rule. Um, so medics and medical professionals are not allowed to declare a death on Disney ground. Um, they will always say that they died on the way to hospital. Um, in the
Mm.
articles or the news stories or even official death reports, and like they will always say that they died. They never died at the scene, even though people clearly died at the scene. So that kid, the 18-year-old, was fatally stabbed, but in the news reports, it will say he died on the way to hospital. And the guy in my main story killed himself.
Yeah.
But he they said he killed himself. He shot himself in the head, and they
Mm.
said that he was like still alive, and he died on the way to hospital, and that was the news report. So that makes me think that he definitely didn't. Like he definitely died on Disney ground.
Ah, like maybe he died on the park and they just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So if you ever hear about incidents that happened at Disney and they say that they died on the way to hospital, rather than like if they say they died a few days later, that's fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
They probably did. But if they say they died on the way, like nah, they died
Ah.
in the park. It's just a rule that they're not allowed to
Ugh.
officially declare the death then.
That's creepy.
It is, isn't
But also
it?
interesting. It's interesting. I get for their image. I mean, I don't understand it because it seems a little, inhumane. But I understand that for their image, some, terrible person at the top is probably like, okay, please don't let anyone die on Disney ground. This is meant to be, happiest place on earth, holy ground. Like, let
Yeah.
them die elsewhere. But still,
Yeah.
dark. I mean,
Yeah.
there's that rule where you can't spread your ashes at Disney. People are often caught and kicked out, and police get caught for people that like start spreading ashes of people.
Yeah, but that's what I want to happen to me. Like that's what I want,
Kind of
and I
crazy.
want someone to risk jail time for that.
To
Like, how dare they
be
not?
left at Disney. I
Yeah,
mean,
I wanna be spread at Disney.
I mean, just I know that people do it in Pirates of the Caribbean. They'll like dump stuff in the water, and
Mm.
I also know that Pirates of the Caribbean, I think in California, that some of the bones they initially used were actual real life bones, like
That
donated from the local hospital.
that wasn't in California. That was the one that they opened in Florida, because
Oh, really?
yeah, because they opened when they opened the Florida park, when they opened the Magic Kingdom at first, they didn't have a Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and the public were going mental about it. They were like, "Where the hell is Pirates of the Caribbean? That's the only reason we go to Disneyland. It's their favorite ride at the time." So they really quickly tried to make the ride, and whilst they were quickly trying to make like the fake skeletons, it didn't look right. Then they went and got real skeletons from like
Crazy.
medical
And
research.
I heard that in the California park now, on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, there are two known skeletal heads remaining. Like all the rest were cleared out, but initially they didn't look right. So there's two left that people have found, and like it's all over. You know, if you go on YouTube and stuff, you can find them.
It's
How
cool.
crazy is
I love
that?
it.
Real skeletons. So crazy.
I love it. I think it's really cool. Like, I know that some people think it's really dark, which kind of is, but at the same time, these people did donate their bodies, so
Put my bones in Pirates of the Caribbean when I go.
100%. I would love that.
Yeah, I want to
Just
be
put
there
my
forever.
rotting body in there. Like, don't
But I
even wait.
mean, the music. If you've ever been in one of the rides where the music is playing and the whole scene is not going, or like the lights come on but the music is still going, there's something really eerie about
Oh
that.
yeah,
There is something not right. Like when the whole experience, when something isn't, within the parameters of what they wanted it to be, say the
yeah,
lights come on, or if the lights aren't on and you're walking through, like some of the cast members say, you walk through It's a Small World, nothing's moving, but the music stays on a constant loop. That has
yeah.
got to be so harrowing.
I love that. I love ride breakdowns. I love being on them. Apart from one time I got stuck, we were on a ride breakdown on Expedition Everest, and we were going up the hill. And you know that like steep hill, like near the beginning, and you go up, and it like clicks you into place, and you're going up. And we were near the top, and it was so hot and sunny, and the ride just stopped, and we were stuck out there for about half an hour, just in this glaring sun with no way out.
Oh my
And
god,
I was
terrible.
dying. I got so like badly sunburned on my face from that, because there was no
That's
way you can
terrible.
move. But I also got stuck once on, not in a Disney park, but in Universal, on the Forbidden Journey ride in Harry Potter Land. So the one in the Hogwarts
Oh.
Castle. I
Mm-hmm.
actually got stuck, and we broke down on that the first time I ever went on it. And we were stuck for about 10 minutes, and then they turned all the lights on and turned the music off. And I was stuck right next to a Dementor.
Oh
So I
my
could see
gosh, that's
like
horrible.
the frame of the Dementor. It was really cool. I mean, I was annoyed at the time because it was the first time I'd been on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like so immersed in it. And Harry Potter is one of my favorite things in the world as well. So like I was so immersed. And then I could see all the ins and outs and the workings of the ride. Um, had it been the second time, I would have loved it, if I got stuck.
Yeah,
But I could see
it
like
is a
all
bit
the
creepy.
escape paths. I could see like the cast members walking around like in the roof, all the house lights. The building that we were in looked so square. It didn't look like, it wasn't like Hogwarts. It was like a warehouse.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
That's funny.
So I do love that. Did we ever get stuck on a ride, me and you?
No, I have been stuck on that same ride, and I was stuck in front of the spider,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
awful. But I wasn't stuck, essentially. I was there for about, I don't know, an extra 30 seconds. Obviously, there'd been like, I don't know, some time delay. But we were stuck and it just kept moving, coming forward, going back and coming forward. And that freaked me out sufficiently enough to be like, okay, this sucks.
Oh,
Move me
we were
away from
stuck
the
for a
spider.
good. We were stuck for a while.
Oh my gosh.
But we didn't get evacuated off the ride. They were like, no, we're going to keep it going. So I think it was a guest related incident. It wasn't like a mechanical incident. It was a
Okay.
guest related thing. So they were just like having to remove the guest, and something happened then. But they knew that we could keep going. Like it wasn't unsafe. So we were stuck for a long time. But we weren't removed from the ride. But if you've ever been on that ride, it's very like it just rocks you back and forth in all directions, doesn't it? Well, I was really lucky in the sense that the seat that I was in was just like a little bit back, like I was in like the back position of a rocking chair. So it was
Oh,
quite comfortable
nice.
for me. My dad, however, was on the next like thing over, like the one after me, and his thing got stuck, and he was like at a 90-degree angle, like on his side,
Oh, that's
and they were
horrible.
stuck hanging there for ages. And it was when you go through the mouth of the head in the Chamber of Secrets. He was going through the tunnel in like sideways, and he got stuck.
Oh,
And I
bless
was
him.
like, that is gutting. And he came off, and he was like, my side is hurting so much.
Bless him.
Yeah.
Ah, that was good. That was
Yeah.
fun. I liked the Disney cast. That
Yeah,
was
the
nice for
Disney
a
cast.
birthday. I think that with all these cases, if we find, I know I'm gonna tweet about Rebecca. Um, I think that's a nice thing to put up. You can tweet some about some of those pictures, especially some of those honorable mentions. I want to see the pigs, so we'll tweet about those, and you can
Yeah.
find us at IBLO Crime on Twitter. So
Yeah.
that's nice. You can find us there. Anything else to add?
Nothing from me. just happy birthday.
Good. Yeah, happy birthday. Have a nice day. Jessie, I think we did it. I bloody love orange.
I fucking love green. All right, guys. See you on Saturday. Bye.
Bye.